Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. It is Saturday, July 24th, 2021. I am Andrew Hansen alongside Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach. And hopefully you all saw the terrific preview show that Coach did of the Olympics. But now it's time for some real DFS action, Coach. The first slate of the Olympics. Are you ready to get after it?
I could not be more fired up. And I know everybody that hopefully everybody that's watching this is going to be a huge help, because I know just from the scuttlebutt in our Discord and then just you and I even preparing, there's a lot of stuff to figure out and a lot of strategy to be had. So we're ecstatic that we have that edge here and we're ready to share it.
That's right. And so what we want to make sure we do is have everybody ready for the slates. Get your lineups reserved on DraftKings so you can play the full slate with 4 games.
Right.
On FanDuel, it's the showdown slate only with US and France. We're going to have our members ready for both of those opportunities. Really looking forward to it. And just be aware of the start times. You know, we're gonna use the Eastern starting times here just to be consistent, so that you don't get confused. So the DraftKings slate starts Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. The FanDuel slate starts 8 a.m. Eastern on Sunday. So we're going to have lineups for our members tonight and in the morning. We'll be tracking it throughout the night. So jump in with us if you would like to participate in this Olympic experience. DFSCoachTalk.com is where you join us. And we've got the $88 summer special to take you from now until early September. Terrific value. So join us for the Olympics, for baseball, for golf. We're having a great time. But, Coach, we got to get going here on the first matchup, the Czech Republic and Iran.
Yes.
And it's the biggest spread, 17.5 points on BetUS.com.pa, our presenting sponsor. Why don't you get us started with the Czech Republic?
I will do that. I know, you wanted to have Iran because that's one of your favorite basketball teams.
Absolutely.
I think you have a sweatshirt, Iran basketball, don't you?
Yeah, basketball crazy country.
There you go. So Czech Republic, this one's pretty easy. And you'll see as we talk through these, obviously there are a lot of NBA players. I touched on those in the preview show, and we'll highlight some of them. But the key factor is some of these NBA guys are going to be great plays, but there's going to be a lot of NBA guys that are great fades because they're going to be over-owned because people know their names, etc. So those are the things we're going to try to point out as we go team by team. And then, we'll also, when we're doing that, talk about, that matchup and how we're anticipating. You can do some game scripting here, but we had talked about it prior. The Olympics are such a big deal, and, it only takes 6 games to win a gold medal. So, this is a once in a lifetime for some of these players, some of these coaches. So they do approach every game in this like it's a game 7 of an NBA finals. They really do. So as far as game scripting out, how many minutes are they going to be rested? If it's somewhat of a blowout, do they take the foot off the gas? In most of those cases, what I have learned through the years, Andrew, watching FIBA and then even a step higher with Olympics, they're generally all in and just let it, play it out, bigger minutes, not running up the score, but they make sure and get the victories. And there are a couple of tiebreakers that go on point differential if it really comes down to it. So it's not that teams are going to terribly run up the score, but they're going to make sure they have a healthy win. So as we're going through these and we're going through the entire Olympics, it'll get obviously easier for everybody once they see all the teams play at least once, because then a little bit of what the rotation is in the minutes. But the bottom line is, the consistent factor that we're going to break down with these, even through this first set of games, is, we're looking for the main guys that have been getting the minutes in the friendlies and leading up to this with NBA experience, or they played for their country in a previous FIBA or whatever it was. And, we put all of those things into works when we break this down to you. So it is a lot of work, but this to me is a lot of fun. And if you follow us here at DFS Coach Talk, I think you're going to find that we have an edge that we can bring forward that it's going to be tough to match in the industry. So, and I'm not, you know me, Andrew, I'm not a arrogant or person that's going to brag, but I think we got some good stuff here, and I think we're going to have a heck of a run the next 2 weeks.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Tomas Satoransky. He's only 6,900. He is got the keys to the car for the Czech Republic. He's playing point. He's going to get big minutes. He's done well in the friendlies. Everything points to him. As far as I'm concerned, I think he's one of the most underpriced guys. As far as, the NBA guys, the fact that he's only at 6,900, and I'm always going to talk about the DraftKings prices here, obviously, because that's the one that's carrying all the games, which also is more fun because we're trying to usually balance DraftKings, FanDuel, Yahoo, the whole 9 yards. Now we can just hone in on DraftKings. So Satoransky at 6,900 is a great play. He's going to make probably 100% of my lineups, Andrew. I love him. A couple other guys, Jan Vesely, who played for the Wizards. He had a decent cup of coffee in the NBA. Nice player, pretty solid. He's only $400 cheaper than Satoransky, which is surprising, but he's a good player, not a bad play here in this game, especially against an Iranian team that is definitely one of the least talented teams in the tournament. So on the bubble for me, probably not going to go there right off the bat, but I think that he's somebody that you got to take a look at. One guy that I really like here that is massively underpriced and is the main center for this team is Baldwin. He's only $3,000. You look at his double-doubles that he's put up. He's a big guy, not a terrific talent, but he's big. He gets minutes. And, if you can get a double-double for $3,000, it really helps make a lot of the other stuff work. I don't think you have to really go deeper than those three just because it's game one. We want to see where the chips fall here. Plus, as you said, this game could blow out early, which could cost just a little bit of time for some of the Czech guys. So for me, it's all about Satoransky, Baldwin, and I'm keeping one eyeball on Vesely.
Just one eyeball. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Should we call those guys the big three for the Czech Republic here?
I think we could do that. Why not?
Yeah. I think that is the threesome that I'm most interested in as well. There's a group of starting guards here in that $5,000 to $6,000 range that I think are very attractive. Satoransky, definitely one of them. And Vesely, he's been averaging 19, 8, and 3 in these qualifying games. Very skilled. I do like him as an option as well. But I agree with you. The Baldwin play here, I think he's the best value play on the slate at 3,000, averaging a double-double in the qualifying games.
Right.
Center only. So he's going to take up one of your center spots.
Yeah.
But I plan to use him as my key value play here. And I agree. Don't think I'll go to the Czech bench here. But there are some names to keep an eye on here as we go through through this period with Shilb and Bohacik and Auda, all averaging really good numbers for the other rotation guys.
Right.
And they're all reasonably priced in the 4K range. So we'll keep an eye on those guys here as we get going. Over with the Iranian side.
Yes.
Some of the numbers that you can find on their squad come from the FIBA World Cup in 2019, and their big man Haddadi was terrific there with the numbers 14 and 11, 4 assists. He's 8,900. He's the guy that I want to keep an eye or two on here as we get going and see how he's performing. Other than that, I'm not too interested in these guys, and they're all a lot cheaper, the other starters. Because this team is overmatched, most likely in terms of talent. They are the biggest underdog on the slate. So this isn't the place I really want to invest here for the first slate. But I also like the numbers from 2019 on Yakalid Akordi, 12, 3, and 3. He's only 3,200, so he's another guy I want to keep an eye on. But for me, it's mostly going to be the Czech guys that you talked about, and then move on to game 2.
Yeah, and with Iran, of the 12 teams, that's the only team that I don't feel like I have my arms around the situation, because they don't play the friendlies and they're not playing in other tournaments where you can get a lot of eyeballs on them. Now they have in FIBA done a few different things, and as you say, Haddadi has been definitely their best player. The only problem is at 8,900 and taking up another center spot, I'm not willing to go there. And I would feel comfortable as a cash player just passing on Iran. I just don't think it's worth the risk in cash. Definitely want to see their rotation play out. They should play, their main guys in whatever rotation they're going to utilize against the Czech Republic. So I think, for me, it's going to be sit on the sidelines with the Iranian team for game 1.
All right, Coach. Game 2 is Italy and Germany.
Yes.
12:40 a.m. Eastern.
Yes.
And this is the game that has the closest spread on the board. Italy favored by 5.5. Total's a little bit higher here, 160.5. Game 1 was 151. And in your preview pod, you talked about this Group B being really tough.
Yes.
These two teams are really going to get after it here in the opener to try to, give themselves a chance to come out of Group B. Is that what you're feeling? That this is going to be a really hotly contested game?
100%. And, I know in soccer, they always pick out the worst group in the World Cup and stuff and call it the group of death. Well, this is the group of death because, this game to me is an elimination game. You've got Nigeria and Australia in this group with Italy and Germany. So those two are pretty strong favorites to advance. Only 2 of the 4 advance. And for any chance whatsoever, the winner, they need to win this game, Italy and Germany. And they're not bad teams. So this should be close, hotly contested. And I'll probably have almost half of my lineup come from this game because I think there's talent here. I think it's going to be competitive. Both teams seem to play at a decent pace. I just like the makeup of this game and where it falls. The big question mark here and where you're going to see a lot of ownership go, and the only big thing that could shift things is Danilo Gallinari is on Italy, and he reported late because of the playoffs and everything else. So he has not played with this group in the friendlies. He's certainly probably their best player. So the question is twofold. Number one, is he going to be impactful enough to roster? I'm not going to risk that without him taking the floor whatsoever yet, but I don't think it'd be a terrible risk. Definitely a nice GPP shot for sure. But there's 2 other guys that have really been consistent for Italy in previous events and then in some of these friendlies, and that's Fontecchio and Polonara. They're both solid, scoring guards / forwards. They can play really the 3-4-5. They're listed more as small forwards, but they're talented. They can shoot it. They can shoot the 3. They can rebound. Just really good players. So I do like both of those guys. However, I'm only probably going to go with one of them. I'm still making that decision because I do think if Danilo gets some time, he's going to cut into some of those minutes and shots and usage for those 2 players. So that's one place I'm going to look. The other one that I really love here is Nico Mannion. I mean, he's been handed the keys to the Italy team. He's going to be their point guard probably for the next couple of Olympics, and he's playing good ball and he has a lot of confidence. And in this matchup against Germany, I think it's just a good spot for him. I think he'll get good minutes. 5,200 is a great price. He's one of my favorites on the card as well. So, there's several other places you can go. But really for me, it's going to be Gallinari and GPP, Fontecchio, right, in and Polinar. Those two guys are going to make a lot of my lineups, and Nico Mannion as well. So I could have two or three guys, probably two from Italy. I'll mix it up a little bit. But I think they're a good play here. I'm not going to go any deeper on the bench. I think you'll see some people roster Nicola Melli, who people are very familiar with from the NBA. But looking, at his age and what he's done now at this point in his career and the minutes he's got in the friendlies, I think he's a great fade. And he'll definitely grab some ownership. So I'm pretty high on this matchup and this game.
Yeah, I'm very similar with you on Italy. I want to fade Melli. He's just not getting enough opportunity, even without Gallinari in the qualifying games. Gallinari, I do see as a GPP option, but not for cash. I'd rather go with Fontecchio, Polonara, Mannion. I mean, you get some really good minutes, good players. Fontecchio and Polonara, very good at three-point shooting. Great numbers coming in. I mean, Fontecchio 19-6, Polonara 17-9.
Yeah,
to get those guys in the 5K range, I think is terrific on this slate. So I'm with you on Italy. Over on the Germany side, Lowe, their point guard, 6,100. He's in that group that I was referencing earlier with Satoransky and Mannion. He averaged 12, 2, and 4 in the qualifying games. I think that's a fair price tag.
Right.
I'm not really blown away by anybody else on Germany, although I think this can be a highly contested close game. I think I'm more likely to invest in Italy. On the Germany side, we got to at least mention Mo Wagner. He's 8,500, and he's averaging 14 and 4 coming in. We know that if he gets the minutes, coach, he can put up really, really solid DFS numbers.
Yeah.
I think he's playable, but I'm a little hesitant on him for this slate because he is a center only on DraftKings. We've already mentioned Baldwin as a value play that we like. So I'm on the fence with him. I'm leaning towards not playing him. But what are your thoughts on him? Do you think he's somebody that might be worth it here in the opener?
I really like Mo Wagner. I mean, I've liked him since he played at Michigan, and then even in the pros where it seems like he's gotten moved around and not able to crack a ton of minutes in the rotation. But at the end of the season, finally when he ended up with the Orlando Magic, when they were just playing out the string, even when he got 25, 28 minutes at that level, and there were other teams they were playing that were still positioning themselves for the playoffs, he produces. I mean, double doubles, he gets some blocks, steals. He certainly can score. I think he's an underrated player. I think he'll be their go-to guy, and I think he gets good minutes. Now, the biggest concern I have with Wagner is he does get in foul trouble when he gets big minutes, and that would hurt. But I'm willing to roll the dice. As of right now, if I had to finalize my lineup, he would probably make that second big spot, play in the utility spot for me. But we do have another value center coming up. It's very hard to pass up. But, could Wagner have a 24-point, 11 rebound, 2 blocks game? I really think he could. I don't think Germany has terrific interior defense from what we've seen. They play at a decent pace. I'm believe it or not on the Wagner bandwagon here. I agree with you. Lowe is somebody to keep an eye on at point guard. He's not going to quite make the cut here, but I think he's somebody that you want to watch. The other guy that'll get a lot of ownership too, because he's only 4,200 and everybody knows him, is Isaac Bonga, because he did start a lot of games for Washington at times, but that partially was Scott Brooks doesn't know what he's doing personally. But I mean, Bonga's a good defender, and don't get me wrong, and he's a talented young man, but he's not an offensive, explosive kind of guy. So I think he'll get more ownership than he really deserves. But we'll see what his rotation's like with this Italian team. So, it's probably going to be Wagner for me, and keep an eye on the rest of these guys.
Okay, excellent. Halfway through the slate here, two games left on DraftKings, and of course we'll follow up on FanDuel with that USA-France showdown. We'll touch on that here at the end of the show. But let's go to game 3, Coach. We've got Nigeria and Australia, 4:20 a.m. Eastern. And this is a another closer spread here. Australia by 8.
Yeah.
Over under getting higher here, 172.5. And this is the other teams in Group B. As you mentioned, only 2 teams from each group get the automatic qualification for the round of 8. There are
Yes.
2 teams that will also come in from A, B, or C to give 8 teams, but these are the 2 that you've pegged as the favorites in Group B. So let's start on the Nigeria side. Looking at this team as one of the better teams here in Group B, does that make you want to play any of their guys tonight?
Well, this is going to be a big, probably contrarian move, but I love this move. And here's what I'm going to do. Nigeria, Australia, Spain, and the USA are the 4 teams I think are most likely to medal, the 3 medals, in my opinion. So the fact that Nigeria plays Australia in this first game is interesting. These teams have both had a great play up. They both beat the USA in the friendlies, etc. But here's the issue with Nigeria. I've seen Mike Brown interviews. They talked to him a lot. They went over this team, watched the whole USA-Nigeria game, and he is committed to these players. He's got 8 NBA players. He's committed to basically a 10-man rotation of split minutes. He's done it in these friendlies. They've won. It doesn't look as though he's going to veer from that whatsoever. And so Okafor, Achua, Vincent, Agata, Metu, Okogie, Udo, Nwama, and Nwora, those guys, I think, all get 16 minutes, 17 minutes, 18 minutes. These games are only 40 minutes long. And even though all of their prices are fair, that all the guys I mentioned were between 3,600 and 5,700. So it's tempting, but I just don't see the value in the money versus minutes type of looking at something here. Plus, they're playing Australia, who it really gets after it defensively. I mean, they harassed some of the Americans in that game. They even shut Durant down for a while and created a rough time for Tatum shooting air balls and everything else. So the combination of unclear minutes and going against a really good defensive team, I'm going to completely fade Team Nigeria in this opening round.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. You know, you just look at the minutes in that upset of the U.S., and it was very, very balanced, like you said, deep rotation. He's obviously keeping them fresh and taking advantage of their defensive energy to win a game like that. And you see that without Jordan Nwora, who was busy sitting the bench mostly for Milwaukee. But I think he's shown the offensive ability where, you know, he could really impact this rotation as well. So I think it's too many moving parts for a cash investment here for the first slate. You know, some of the guys who are a little bit cheaper are more attractive to me, like Nwamu, who went 13-7-3 against the U.S. He's only 3,700. Agata, 17-3-2. He's 4,800. So I think a couple of these guys could pay off their price tag pretty nicely here. But for cash, I think it's pretty risky.
I'm with you.
All right. On the Australian side, they are the 8-point favorites. And these are names that you're going to know more and be more comfortable with these players because these are more established NBA players like Patty Mills, Joe Ingles, and then Dellavedova, who's obviously probably on the second half of his career, shall we say. You know, he had the tough concussion issues this year, so he didn't get to play much, but he's been playing big minutes for them. Patty Mills and Ingles, you know, leaders on this team, but they're so expensive.
They are
9,500 and 9,000. That's really the question mark. I guess in one sense, DraftKings has done a good job of making it a tough decision for these guys. So I'm still playing with that. I like both of those guys when they get this type of opportunity, minutes, leadership role, more shots, but I don't like the price tags. So I'm hesitant to play those guys. Thibault is the other name that folks are going to know. But he's 8,100. We're used to considering him as a minimum price guy, Coach.
Yeah.
And he's going to get much more of an opportunity than usual with Philly. 24 minutes in their game against the U.S., 12-2-3. So that's the type of production you want. But 8,100, again, really tough to get that high. The one price tag I circled for Australia was Landau, one of their big guys, 5,200. I think that's a fair price tag for a guy who played about half the game against the U.S. Okay numbers, 8-7-2, but for the season in Australia, he was 16-8-2. Good shooting numbers, 62, 39, 71. So he's got the skill of an international big that you like and a nice price tag. So he's in consideration for me. I'm not too interested in the bench here. Exum is a popular name. He's got some upside, but I don't like the fact that he's not getting as many minutes as some of these other guys. So maybe Landau for me. And, I'd like to play one of the other Australian guys, but I just don't know if I can afford them.
I get it. I mean, I really like Team Australia here. I think watching Nigeria, play, they play with a lot of pace. They push the ball, their rotation, they're fresh. I mean, most of these guys are used to playing a lot more minutes. So, you only get a run for 16, 17 minutes, you're going. So I like the pace of this game for Australia. Patty Mills is fantastic. I mean, you could roster him at any point in any of these games and you got a nice play because he just always is consistent and certainly is, their leader. I see myself going to either Mills or Ingles, one of the two, just because they're both just so good statistically across the board. I mean, not a lot of turnovers. They're going to get assists. Australia moves the ball fantastic. They're fun to watch. And I think you're going to get a lot of rebounds. And again, with the tempo up from Nigeria, I want to play one of the key guys there. Thibault, I think, is a great play too, but at 81, it's just, for me, I can't go with two of those three top guys. If I have a real money crunch, though, I don't think it's a massive drop to go from Mills or Ingles down to Thibault because, Thibault's going to get stocks. He gets them all the time in the NBA.
Right.
And he doesn't get that enough minutes for Philly, really. And he should get solid minutes here. I think he's going to be a part of this team for a long time to come. And, it's odd, but you have to start thinking of things this way too. These coaches that are coaching these teams and trying to develop something long-term, it's very important, the minutes and how they treat him and what they do, because, a Thibault or something, he's going to have a nice contract here with the NBA and he doesn't have to go play for his country maybe once, but they want him to come back. So, and they want to get him to bring Ben Simmons with him. That's his teammate, for crying out loud. So I think they're going to make sure Thibault's happy with his minutes and his role. And I think he's playable throughout this entire Olympics. So he's on my radar. The big news for me, and I haven't found it, and I don't think I'm going to, is Aaron Baines. He started at center against the USA in the friendly, and he hurt his knee, and it was really bothering him. But he did come back out from the locker room in that game. They said he might be ready for the Olympics, and that affects how much I like Landell. I like Landell. He's good, and no, he's not the My Pillow guy, by the way. That's what's that Landell's name?
I'm not sure.
But he's good. But if he's splitting any minutes with Baines, that knocks him down just a notch. So I need to see what's going on with Baines, and that makes me I'm already full at center anyway, so I won't go there. The guy I really like, though, I think, maybe we differ a little bit on. For $4,700, I think Dante Exum is a hell of a ball player. I really like his game. And if for $4,700 he can give me 25 minutes, 23 minutes, I think he can do fine. I mean, he is a very streaky guy too, and he'll finish at the hoop. So, I'm going to buy up for one of these Australians. Probably Exum has a great chance. Not going to go Delhi. I think, you said Delhi's on the second half of his career. I think he's on the third half of his career. How's that for a Yogi Berra? But
Right.
yeah, I mean, I know he may get 20 minutes. He's their team leader, captain, everything else. I just see that I feel his game is regressed in the last year and a half. So I think you'll see more from it, the younger generation coming in now with Thibault and Exum and some of these guys. So Exum's not as young, but he's still got a lot of game in front of him. So yeah, I'll have some exposure to Australia here. And if you have a chance to catch that game, for me, it's 3:20 in the morning, KBO kind of, but I do want to see this game. So it could be back to 4 cups a day, like in the KBO days of coffee.
That's right. This is a challenging schedule. So let's wrap it up with the Sunday morning breakfast time game.
Yes.
U.S. and France at 8 a.m. Eastern. U.S. favored by 12. This is the highest total on the board, 175.5. What are your thoughts here on Team USA in the opener?
Well, it's really tough, and I'm like, I can't believe it. But do you know that there's some of the teams that don't have a $7,500 guy? Look at the Czech Republic with $6,900, Satoransky being their top guy. So they've got Durant, Lillard, Tatum, Booker, Levine, Green, Holiday, Middleton, Grant, Adebayo. 10 guys, 7,500 to 10,600. So if you think you can stack up any of the USA guys, you got another thing coming on DraftKings. I mean, maybe 2 guys, but it's just, I mean, you go all the way down to even let's say Jeremy Grant. He's 7,800. So number one, you got the Popovich factor, which gives all of us, as my Italian grandmother would say, agita, when we worry about trying to roster these any Pops team, because you never know what he's going to do. I mean, he played Keldon Johnson, his own guy, a ton of minutes in some of those friendlies. Maybe he's going to be a value play in here. JaVale McGee they brought in, which, they needed a rim protector and a center. Does he get minutes? And very well could. So, wow, man, it is so hard to fit them in salary-wise and figure out what there's going to role's going to be. Then you've got the third element here of that. The confusion is you've got Booker, Middleton, and Holiday just joining a day ago after that huge flight over. And believe me, I've flown not to Japan, but I've flown to Europe and stuff. And you are just all messed up for a couple of days. So I don't know if they play. If they do, what's their role? And it's Pop. So, boy, this first game is going to be tough. France is a good team. And for me, it's very simple here. I really do think I'm going to bite the bullet because if I haven't spent a ton in all these games yet, and I'll probably roster either Durant or Lillard. Everything that I've seen in these friendlies and just different comments from Pop and everything, I think those 2 guys are the most assured to get the biggest minutes, the biggest usage, and take the most shots. So I'd like to have one of those 2 as a foundational guy to build my roster. And then I wouldn't, what I'm going to try to do on the second spot is get somebody that's reasonable, that whether it be I don't have a center spot for Bam probably, but if it is a Keldon Johnson or a Draymond Green, I do like Draymond because he will anchor the defense, and I know Pop loves him. So, probably 2 guys from the USA at most, but man, DraftKings has made it tough with the salaries.
Yeah, they really have. I agree. Probably want to go with either Durant or Lillard. And those 2, along with Tatum, I think, are the guys that have sort of solidified themselves so far with the most minutes and usage. And things could obviously shift, but I wouldn't mind having one of those guys on DraftKings. And I just am. There's no way I would invest in those guys you just mentioned who just came over in game 1. Drew,
Too
Booker,
risky.
Middleton. Too risky. I expect they will come off the bench and get backup minutes here, if at all. The latest updates I heard was that they could play depending on how they feel after the trip, We also have Levine coming out of the health and safety protocols. And
Correct.
I would think if he's ready to go, that he would start, because he's earned it. And Pop, to me, is a guy who's going to stick with the guys who got him there, at least for starters. And he's not going to go to Holiday, Booker, or Middleton as a starter, even though, if everybody was together for quite a bit of time leading up to this, it could be a different story. But on DraftKings, possibly Lillard or Durant. And then on FanDuel for the showdown slate, the pricing is decent. You can get Durant and Lillard and then fill out your roster with other guys from this game who are going to get big minutes. So I kind of like the slate, and we are going to provide for our members on that. So it is a little different between DraftKings and FanDuel.
Oh, it's a lot different.
Yep. So that's something to look forward to. So definitely it's just a different consideration for the two sites on this game. Yeah. Over on the French side, Coach, we've got some names here that folks are going to be very familiar with: Evan Fournier, Rudy Gobert, of course. Then Nicolas Batum is going to be a key player for this team. So with that group here, Fournier obviously more of a volume shooter. 6,800 definitely in play for me.
Right.
And he could possibly get the best matchup for France if he gets Levine as his primary defender. Levine, we know, is more of a scorer, not a defender. So Fournier is in play for me. Batum, though, I really like his price at 5,000. He's a do-it-all guy. Got big minutes against Spain in a recent matchup that they had. So I like Batum here. Gobert, a little more interesting for me probably on the FanDuel showdown. On the main slate for DraftKings at 9,900. I don't know if I can get there for him. I'd rather pay up for one of the Americans. And then with the rest of the French team, another value play that I think you like as well is Yabusele. Is a former Celtic who I've watched a lot, and he had almost a double-double against Spain, and he's really cheap. He's only 3,100 on DraftKings. So I like Yabusele. They've got some guards who are going to share minutes here. Albasi, who's cheap. Nando De Colo, who's more of a well-known guy with more experience. He's much more expensive. And then Frank Ntilikina. We also have our man TLC. So I think those guys are going to share minutes to the point where I probably won't go there. But that's the group I think you want to pull from if you want one value play on the showdown slate on FanDuel.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think France is a dangerous team. They do have some depth and experience, and certainly, dangerous because Gobert's been there a bunch, De Colo for a long time. Batum's played several events for France, FIBA, the Olympics, etc. So I'm not going Gobert. I think he's overpriced, and again, I've already got those center spots locked up. Not real confident in De Colo anymore. I was in the last Olympics, but he's older now, and he's sharing some minutes with Ntilikina and Albasi as well. So I'm not going to go there. Fournier's definitely tempting at that $6,800 price because he's going to chuck it and duck it for sure and get some shots up against the Americans and not be intimidated. So, the problem is he has a tendency to be a little scoring dependent. He's not a good defender either. And, so on the fence for me, I agree with you on the two plays. I think the two best plays here for your money and your bang for your buck as far as minutes and usage are the two guys you mentioned, Batum and Yabusele. I think those two guys at 5,000 and 3,100 respectively, I think obviously USA is going to play at a breakneck pace. And I think those two guys could both be safely above value, maybe even 6, 7X, 8X kind of guys. So I like those two. Keeping an eye on Ntilikina. Want to see how much run he gets. I know De Colo is still one of their captains. So I do think he's at his $3,600 price down the road, maybe not against the Americans, could be a decent play. TLC, we've seen him come off the bench even now, for the Nets this year, and he can pour in buckets. He is a streak shooter. That 3-point line is shorter. That corner jumper and for him is solid. So not the worst play, but as we've mentioned with some of these guys, I do think the Ntilikina's, TLCs and such will have somewhat over ownership tied to them because of the name recognition and NBA play. So looking to steer clear of some of those possible traps. But I'll definitely have some exposure here. And I don't think this is a walk in the park for the Americans.
Excellent. Well, I hope that has helped everybody get ready here for the opener. It's going to be a lot of fun to have these teams get after it in the chase for gold. And we're going to be right there with them all the way. So we hope you continue to join us on these podcasts. If you haven't already, do subscribe to the YouTube channel and click the alert button so you know when these podcasts post. It's obviously a strange schedule with these start times. So we're going to be having these podcasts post at different times. Any questions, reach out to us on Twitter at DFS Coach Talk. If you'd like to join and get our lineups, dfscoachtalk.com. We give out full lineups on FanDuel for these showdown slates, and then the core on DraftKings for the cash games or GPP. Sometimes we do a full clipboard with highlighted players and other pivots for you to build out your lineup. So we're going to have you ready to go here for Olympic hoops. Coach, did I miss anything?
No, I think you covered it all. I mean, we went a little more in depth today, a little longer. These first 3 days when we see the 24 teams for the first time, we're going to try to dig in a little bit and give you guys the edge and gals. So, bear with us there. We'll try to get these out in the morning so you have plenty of time to listen to them. And then as we see rotations, we'll be able to shorten these up and get a little more particular with who we're going to play. So it's going to be great. Huge edge here. Great contest. Get in there. Join us, dfscoachtalk.com. That summer special goes all the way to September 7th, right before NFL for 88. We'd love to have you there. And if you're watching on YouTube right now, quick thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and definitely click the alert because you're going to want to know when these posts, like Andrew said, with all these different times and things going on. Certainly worth catching that edge. So really appreciate everybody listening in and really excited to just crush this next 2 weeks.
Excellent. All right. Well, on behalf of the coach and the rest of the DFS Coach Talk team, I'm Andrew Hansen. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time as we look to crush it in DFS.